What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So today I want to talk about people on Social Security, people who are retired, or people who are thinking about retiring in the next 10 years. We have to pay attention to what's going on in our economy in order to find out if it's the right time to retire. Last year, I retired, and I was looking at the economy to try to figure out, is this the time for me to retire? Because if you retire at the wrong time, you could be in a situation where you're worse off, and maybe you should have worked another year or something like that. So I want to talk about the economy. I want to show you some of the different things that I looked for prior to retiring. And then we're going to look at what's updated information when it comes to our economy. That's what we're going to focus on in this video. But first off, if you guys do me a favor, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification, and then click all. By clicking all, you'll get notified anytime we post a video. We do daily videos here, so by clicking the bell notification and clicking all, you should be getting updated every day. And just a reminder, you can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @TheTECShowLive. Make sure you follow me over there because I do post my videos over there as well. So if you're not getting notified on YouTube, which you should be getting notified, but if you're not, you will get a notification from Twitter letting you know that I posted a video on YouTube. You just click on that link and it'll take you right over there. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about our economy. And let me show you this really quick. This says mass layoffs in 2022 and 2023. What's next for employees? Now, one of the things I looked at prior to retiring was the economy. How is the economy going? Are we hiring people? Are we laying people off? And just so happened before I retired, we were hiring a bunch of people. It was a situation where we needed more people. We had a shortage. And so that's a good sign that our economy is strong. At least at that time, our economy was strong. Now, I wanted to show you this article because I want to go through this and just show you in 2022, how many layoffs we had in 2022, and this will continue into 2023. Now, this is not good news. This is actually bad news. Now, we know why this is happening. We know the Federal Reserve is basically trying to cool off our economy by raising interest rates. If you raise interest rates, that makes it less desirable for businesses to take out loans, for people to take out loans and spend more. A good example is, are you going to buy a car right now because you know the interest rates are really high? You're probably not going to buy a car. You're probably going to try to wait until the interest rates go back down. If you have control over that. Now, if your car breaks down and you can't fix it, then you might have to buy a car, but that's only in a worst case scenario. In an ideal situation right now, you'll probably hold out for at least a year just until the interest rate drops, and then you can go and look into buying a car. And so what does that mean? That means that people who sell cars are not going to be able to sell cars. They're not going to be able to make those commissions. That means that people who are making cars, they're probably not going to be making as many cars because not as many people are buying. The demand is down, so not as many people are out there purchasing cars. And so that can affect that whole economy when it comes to the car industry, but not just the car industry. We're looking at everything across the board. And later in this video, I'm going to show you the averages when it comes to how much people have in their savings. But if you don't have a lot of money, if you've lost your job, or if you can't take out loans, or you don't want to take out loans, then that's going to cool the economy off, but that's also going to mean mass layoffs. So let's take a look at what companies are laying people off, or what companies laid people off last year, and how this is really going to have an impact on our economy this year. So Facebook, Meta laid off 13% of their workforce March of 2023. So this is just this month. Twitter laid off 10%. And then we'll just go, I'm not going to go over all of these different companies, but I just want to show you guys an example. So Disney lays off 3%, Zoom lays off 15%, Dell lays off 5%, HubSpot, PayPal, all these different companies are laying people off right now. Now there are a lot of companies that are in the tech industry that are doing these layoffs right now. Amazon's on here, Microsoft's on here, Google's on here. DirecTV, Coinbase, Salesforce, Goldman Sachs. So there are a lot of companies here that are just laying people off, and this is going to have a major impact on our economy in the very, very near future. I mean, it's already had an impact, but in the very near future, we're going to see some real pain coming. Now, I didn't mention the reason that the Federal Reserve is raising interest rates is they're trying to get inflation under control. Right now, inflation is at 6%. They want it to go down to around 2%. That's where they want it to be. But unfortunately, they're not able to do that. Okay. And so that's why you continue to see this push to raise interest rates, because if you're raising interest rates, that means it makes it less desirable for these companies and for people to want to take out loans to spend, basically. And if it's less desirable to spend, that will lower inflation because people won't be spending. They won't be out there buying all these different items. And so what will happen? These companies will lower their prices because they have to, because people aren't buying the products that they're trying to sell. Okay, so and in 2022, these are the layoffs in 2022. So we have Cisco, DoorDash, Candy Digital, Redfin, Amazon, Meta. So we saw Meta in the other in 2023. We see Meta in 2022. They laid off 13%. Amazon laid off 1% in 2022. Redfin also laid off 13%. So just going down the list, we have Twitter laid off 50%. We know what happened in that situation with Elon Musk. Peloton's a company that, they laid off 12%, and they laid off twice in 2022, two different time periods. And so just going down the list, you see Lyft here, they laid off 2%. So this is not going to stop. Robinhood lays off 9%. And like I said, Peloton here, they laid off 20%. So that was in February. And then they had the other layoff later in the year. And so this is only going to continue. And so how does this impact us right now? Well, that means less people are buying things. And if less people are buying things, like I said, inflation will go down, but also we run a risk of dropping into a recession because people aren't buying things. They don't have the money to buy things. They're going to start defaulting on their loans. They're not going to be paying off their credit cards, and that is going to be a disaster. And so if you're retired right now, you're thinking, well, I'm retired, so I shouldn't have to really worry about this. But you also need to think about the FICA tax. So all these people that are working, they're paying into the FICA tax. The FICA tax is going to pay for people who are currently receiving Social Security benefits. And so if you have less money coming in, if the Social Security Administration is collecting less money because you have less people in the workforce, that means they're drawing more from that trust fund. And you hear about the trust fund, you hear these politicians talking about in 10 years, Social Security will be insolvent. They're talking about the trust fund will be insolvent. Only the trust fund, not Social Security as a whole. But once the trust fund runs out of money, then people receiving Social Security are going to see about a 23% cut. And so that is what they're trying to avoid right now by talking. These politicians are talking about reforming Social Security, which needs to happen. But that will happen much quicker. Right now, the estimate is 10 years. It could be 5 years. If we're looking at a situation where you have mass layoffs and you have less people working in the workforce, they're not paying into that FICA tax, which means the trust fund needs to pull more money. And if they need to pull more money, that means that we're looking at a situation where that trust fund will be depleted much sooner than anticipated. And so that is the fear right now. The fear is that we could be in a situation where, because of all these layoffs, and the Federal Reserve has said they're estimating that we'll probably see about 2 million people laid off by the end of the year. 2 million people will lose their jobs by the end of the year. And the Federal Reserve knows this, and that's why they continue to try to raise those interest rates to cool off the economy. And the whole strategy here, and I know this sounds cruel, but the whole strategy here is to have people lose their jobs. They lose their jobs, they stop spending as much, it cools off the economy, it lowers inflation. Now, so that's what we're looking at. Now, I want to show you, let me show you this here. And this is the Federal Reserve here. I want to just show you what we're looking at, this graph here. Okay, so this, we'll just go back. We went back to 2014. So when we're looking at this, what we're looking for is the personal savings rate. So how much does the average person have in their savings? They're not the amount total, but just a percentage. Do they have a large percentage in their savings, or do they have not so large of a percentage in their savings? And so you see, when it comes to the savings rate, when we're looking at these numbers here, 7.3, and just if you follow my cursor here, 7.3, 7.4, 7.5, this is all in 2015. As we move closer to the 2020, and we know in the pandemic in 2020, we saw a large uptick. So it went from 9.3 Actually, it's always been around between 7 and 9. Okay, 7 and 9. Now, when we hit the pandemic era, that's when it jumped up. April of 2020, 33.8%. Now, why did that happen? Why was there so much money? Why did so many people have money in their savings? Well, one is we saw an influx of money coming in. So whether it be stimulus checks, whether it be PPP money, all this money was printed, if you want to say it that way, printed, and we had this money on hand. Now, not only did we get all this money, but we couldn't spend it because in a lot of situations, stores were closed. We were kind of locked down in a situation where we couldn't really go where we wanted to go. And a lot of people didn't even want to go anywhere. And so they had this money, they just put it in their savings because they couldn't spend it. And so that's why we saw this big uptick during the pandemic. Now, and then it started to drop out, and then it shot back up again, 2021. So January of 2021. At that time, stimulus checks were still going out. PPP funding was still available. And so people still did have money, right? They had money in their savings. And not just people, but I'm talking about businesses as we're looking at everything. So in March of 2021, it was 26.3%, and then it dropped out again. And you see this drop out. Now it has continued to go down since then. Okay, so it's gone down, and it went all the way down last year, June of 2022. And we know June of 2022, that's when we saw a real big spike when it came to inflation, was 9.1%. And so in June, it was 2.7. Okay, this personal savings rate. And now you see it kind of uptick, downtick, and then uptick. And so right now we're looking at in January, the last recording here was 4.7%. So that is what the average savings rate is. That's what it looks like right now. That's not good when you compare it to what we've seen in the past. And if you go back even further, you're going to see that that 4.7. Yeah, it's in most situations, other than 2008. And 2008 was a real bad time for our economy. That's when you saw it drop below. That's when you saw it drop around the same levels that we're seeing now. But other than that, in the lead up to it, you saw the lead up 2006, 2005. It wasn't too great, but we haven't seen the personal savings rate look like this for a very long time. And the last time that we saw it was a really, really bad recession. And so that's what we're looking at right now. We're seeing people getting laid off. We're seeing that people don't have money in their savings. And we've already seen when it comes to the defaults, credit card defaults, we're seeing that. So we might start seeing auto loan defaults, and then we might start seeing mortgage defaults. And so when we start seeing all these things, that is really, really bad news for our economy. So we're going to have to follow the story and see where it goes. I just wanted to bring this information to you just so you kind of know. So if you are in a situation where you're working right now and you're thinking, I don't know if I'm going to retire right now or if I'm going to wait a couple of years, I'm not going to give you financial advice when it comes to that. But just know when you start looking at some of these different areas, it's really, you want to do it at the right time, because especially if you're receiving like a 401k and things like that, you don't want to retire and then you're in a situation where our economy just completely tanks and the stock market completely tanks, and all the money that you had in your 401k, it suffers until you have less money. And now it's at the time where you need to start drawing some of that money out. So it just makes things really bad, because you can't let that money sit there and rebound. You have to start taking that money out. And so it's really, we're in a situation right now where it's uncharted. We don't really know where, I won't say it's uncharted because we've been here before, but we're in a situation where we don't really know what's going to happen. Okay, it's unpredictable. And if it does go down, if the Federal Reserve gets their way, in a sense, if they want to cool the economy off, the economy cools off too much, then we could be in a situation where it will be a bad time to retire, obviously. So just wanted to bring this information out to you guys. If you guys have any questions, let me know down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.